President welcome Ijoma Onyato tonight. Southwest PDP disagree over which candidate to present as national chairman as party's BOT demands withdrawal of all pending court cases. 3 joint task force members of the Operation Safe Haven killed by gunmen in Bayelsa State during routine patrol of waterways in Nembe. National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers threaten industrial action over the deplorable state of Calabar-Itu Road. And about 100 people killed in protests in Ethiopia as demonstrators clash with security forces in different parts of the country. On business news tonight, Nigeria's real estate sector gets a second listing on the securities market this year.
And on sports news, Coach Samson Siasia says his Olympic soccer team is ready to face any opponent in the quarterfinal of the men's football event Rio 2016.
And from Abuja, I'm Gloria Umezuki. Kaduna State chapter of the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria urges ban on the Islamic movement in Nigeria. Shiites group says call is unwarranted.
We begin with the meeting of the People's Democratic Party leaders in Akure, the Ondo State capital, which ended without an agreement on a candidate for the national chairmanship of the party. The national leaders of the party had earlier zoned the position to the southwest at the meeting. Leaders were expected to agree on a consensus candidate ahead of the national convention planned to hold on August the 17th in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Briefing newsmen after the meeting held at the Government House in Ondo State, the factional Southwest Zonal Chairman of the party, Dr. Eddie Olafeso, revealed that the chairmanship was zoned to Lagos and Ogun states, while the Deputy Publicity Secretary position went to Osun and Oyo, and the Treasurer was zoned to Ekiti and Ondo states. And while all that was going on, the chairmanship of the PDP, and as the chairman of the Board of Trustees, Senator Walid Jibrin, has appealed to members of the party who filed cases in court to have a rethink in the interest of peace and unity of the party. Senator Jibrin, who spoke at the inauguration of an 18-man reconciliation committee, called on all warring factions in the party to sheath their swords and give peace a chance. On his part, chairman of the committee, Professor Jerry Gana, promised that his committee will work hard to broker peace among all its members. The committee has 7 days to submit its report.
The Board of Trustees is the conscience of this party. I think God will not forgive us if we sit down and be looking at this problem with all the court cases all over the places. Over 15 court cases are going on. And I think we should put to end all these court cases. And the way we can do it is to allow all the aggrieved to come together, take away or remove the cases from courts, and give support to this very important committee that will start work immediately. And within 7 days, they are expected to give us their report so that we can finalize this matter once and for all.
The sense of fairness, the sense of justice, the sense of making sure that the PDP is again together as a very powerful body. Would appeal to our dear friend, Senator Ali Modu Sharif, and his members to kindly give us the chance to consult, to listen, to discuss, and by the grace of God to come to a solution that will unite the PDP. We believe this is possible.
More revelations have been coming from the man in the eye of the storm of the alleged budget padding in the House of Representatives, Abdul Mumin Jibrin. The former chairman of the House Committee on Appropriation has accused 2 governors and 3 former members of the House of preventing him from meeting with the president. He alleges that their action was part of a plot to provide a soft landing for the Speaker, Yakubu Dogara. Mr. Jibrin, who made the allegations in a statement, did not name the governors or the former House members. In a statement which was released just as the Transparency Group in the House told journalists that that members would meet today to review their strategy. According to Mr. Jibrin, the governors had blocked him from having access to President Buhari to tell the president his version of the crisis, as Honorable Dogara did last week. We move on to security matters, where 3 members of the Joint Task Force, codenamed Operation Delta Safe, have been killed early today in Nembe, the riverine area of Bayelsa State. The officers came under attack at a checkpoint mounted at the Nembe waterway by persons suspected to be militants. Reports say the suspects, who were in a gunboat, were dressed in white, disguised as part of a group returning from a burial. The militants opened fire on the officers and stole 2 gunboats belonging to them. Meanwhile, the Nigerian army says in view of the increasing internal and external security challenges confronting the country, boosting its human capacity has become more crucial than ever. To this end, its officers and soldiers are being trained to operate the new equipment added to the Nigerian armory to facilitate effective operations. This is according to the Commandant of the Nigerian Army Headquarters Garrison, Major General John Mal, who is speaking at the Warrant Officers and Non-Commissioned Officers Professional Competition in Abuja.
The training is mission-oriented. For instance, in the weapon handling, most men, they will be put through the weapons they will be handling in the theater of operation. If you recall, the Chief of Army Staff has inducted a lot of new equipment into the theater. Some of those weapons that are new in the theater is what these soldiers will be training on. Likewise, in the form of the point-to-point, they will be properly grilled using things like the GPS so that they can find themselves. These are new innovations. So these are mission-oriented training that we're giving. As you know, training is the bedrock of the military function, as they normally say. We train more in peacetime so that we bleed less in war. This is what we are doing now, to train them here now so that if they find themselves in any theater of operation, there will be less casualties because they would have been properly trained.
Now, to discuss the security challenges confronting the military in the face of increasing attacks on its personnel, I'm now being joined on the News at 10 by a security consultant, Captain Umar Aliyu. Thanks a lot for joining us on the News at 10.
Good evening.
Now, we've seen this repeated attack now on the military in the last couple of days, whether it's alleged bandits, alleged militants, or gun runners, whichever you want to call it. Do you think their current strategy is working, the military strategy?
Yeah, the strategies are revving up to meet expectations, as it were. But what you are seeing, the trend, is to be expected. The trend you are seeing now is actually what you can call a fallout of the rather unfortunate circumstances within which the military operated between 2012 and 2014 into 2015. The debilitating circumstances made people bolder, so prospective and aspirant militants have jumped on that boat based on the profits, as it were, of the Boko Haram sect then. So it's made people bolder, and it's now seemingly lucrative to go into militancy. So we have seen attacks in Boso, Niger State, we've seen attacks in Nembe, and we've seen pockets of them in the west here, in Ogun State, in Ikorodu, in Badagry. It's like it's profitable, so let's do it.
Looking at the nature of the attacks, let's start with what happened in Niger. You have 11 military personnel lost their lives, and condolences to their families. Bayelsa, you have 3 people. In both cases, either ammunition or equipment was carted off by these militants, even though there were casualties on the other side as well. What should the military do in a case where they're faced with this sort of bold, direct offensive?
I believe 2016 Earth, Nigeria inclusive, should have gone beyond that now. It's not really smart for people to actually attack soldiers and make away with their ordinances.
But that's what's happening.
Yeah, that's what is happening, but the solutions for that are rife. The solutions for that are available. Okay?
Which are?
It will not be fair for us Nigerians and our armed forces to begin to actually itemize these solutions, because the militants too have ears. they watch TV, and they are smart. But I assure you the solutions are there.
Okay, we do know that negotiations are going on between the government and the representatives of some of these militants, and there's been talk about what should happen if talks break down, and should military force be used, maximum force, as we were hearing all that. Where do you stand on that?
Let me share with you a book I read a long time ago, where the title of that book is apt to this discussion. War and Peace was written by Leo Tolstoy. I read it more than 20 years ago. That's where we're heading now. I want to believe the issues that have informed militancy in the South are apt. They've made a point. Now, to prove their sincerity to the points they've made, they have to come to the negotiation table. That's peace. And if they are for peace, they're going to come to the table knowing that the peace process itself could be drawn out and prolonged. It's not going to take 3 days or 30 minutes per se. And it's not a process where you jump on it 1 minute and you jump off. That's peace. The other aspect is war. It happened in Maiduguri. I'm beginning to see a trend that is similar to what we had in Maiduguri. While Maiduguri was going on, I posited that the party should be moved to Borno State rather than from Abuja. Move the party to Borno State, draw out a roadmap, give deadlines, let there be key performance indicators and milestones. And that came post-inauguration, May 29th, and we're able to see a rebound by close of midnight, 31st December 2015. Now, if I were to suggest a similar line of action here, this is my opinion. If I was in position, I'm going to put probably a 90-day negotiation window open. That window stays open. By midnight, 90th day, if you haven't entered into negotiations, then we have to invoke the war option. The body language, the nuances, the mannerisms we are getting from the militants is more warlike than it's peace-like. Peace, as far as negotiation, dialogue, and all those things we waved at Boko Haram is concerned, is spurious. 1 minute they're on the way to negotiations or dialogue, and the next minute you hear, no, we're out of it.
Even while the negotiations are going on.
Exactly. So fine, whatever it is, let's put the two on the table and let's both parties decide. If I were commander-in-chief, I'll give them a 90-day window. And in those 90 days, I'll give my troops a warning order with 90 days notice to move. 12 midnight, day 90, we are taking it. I'm sorry, but we have to do one of these two.
We do know that they're making some efforts to boost capacity. We did see them trying to train some soldiers. They've talked about, equipping the Nigerian armory. Do you think that's going to be enough, looking at the nature of the attacks that we're seeing right now?
Training is to army as the army is to training. As my elder colleague said, we train more in peace and bleed less in war, and that's true. But I'll tell you something again. In my queer way of thinking, I think it's time Nigeria had more than one army. We have a teeming populace of young, able-bodied men and women who are unemployed. Nigeria is blessed with regions, mountain, jungle, desert, and riverine. And at this moment, as we are seeing, strategic intelligence-wise, where we are going, we need to at least have one division dedicated to each type of warfare. Desert warfare, jungle warfare, mountain warfare, and amphibious operations. No less one division. If possible, 4 armies.
Security consultant Captain Umar Aliyu, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10 tonight.
You're welcome.
And in part 2, after the break, Nigerian Meteorological Agency urges proactive action to avert disaster as flooding looms in about 11 states of the country. That's in a moment. You join us again.